pledge. Andrew. Perfect. All right. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wonderful. All right, well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the weekly Frederick County delegation meeting. And we have hopefully a brief agenda for today, and we'll go ahead and get started with that. So the first thing on the agenda, the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any questions about the minutes that we sent out? And if not, does someone want to make a motion to approve the minutes from the 20th?
Move to approve.
All right, thank you, Senator.
Second.
Okay. All right, thank you, Senator Folden. There's a motion, there's a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. I'm sorry, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, those minutes are approved. So we'll go ahead and jump into the agenda. The first item is the detention center polygraph examinations bill. Just to give a brief recap of what this is, this was a bill that was brought on behalf of the county government, presented by the county executive. As I understand it, the county executive's representative, Victoria, sent out an email, the background on why the bill was put in. It was a request on behalf of the Department of Public Health and the Sheriff's Office, dealing with employees that come in regular contact with inmates and giving them the option to polygraph. I think Ms. Montgomery, can you put your April Montgomery? Okay. So that's the precipitus of this bill. Are there any discussion before we vote? We can open it up. Senator Lewis Young.
Yeah, one question that I asked was, tell me how many incidences or examples there have been that precipitated this request. Like, were there one or two or a dozen that would suggest that this could have presented a problem? And what I was told was there were no specific instances. So that really concerns me. It's like we're putting forward a solution in search of a problem. There's no real reason or past experience to suggest this is necessary. So I'm very concerned that this is a rather draconian approach, given there's no history that would necessitate this. Also, I do have further questions, such as what questions are going to be asked? You know, are there going to be questions asked about past marijuana usage or race and ethnic and marital status? You know, I'm not real comfortable with the kind of questions that would be asked either. So I really don't think this is ready for prime time. That's my thought.
Any other comments or questions? Or I should say, is Victoria Venable on the call? No, she's not. Okay. Any other questions from any other members? Looks like Delegate Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the written responses we got to our inquiries, the second one where we had asked, had the county council had an opportunity to weigh in? The answer was yes, but we weren't told whether the county council supported it or not. So I'm not in a position today where I can vote on this because I'm still not understanding the as Senator Lewis Young said, I don't understand the motivation for it. or a complete understanding of why it's needed. Thank you.
So I'll just chime in with my thoughts. Well, I got a minute here. So, I mean, look, you know, we kind of heard some examples before. You know, generally individuals that, you know, work at a correctional facility are put in a significant position of trust. They are, you know, interacting in many cases with individuals that are in those facilities for committing crimes, many related to dishonesty, other things. And we've seen statewide where we've had inmates colluding with prison staff. We've actually had a state prison shut down. I think some of you remember that in 2019. It was colluding. Inmates were colluding with staff. So again, it's not untypical for law enforcement professionals to be polygraphed as a condition of employment. It's not unheard of. It's not uncommon. And I think what this does is it probably closes a loophole because these individuals are not per se employees of the correctional facility, but yet they're coming in regular contact with the inmates as if they were. I think that is probably the concern. But, you know, if anyone else has any other comments, Senator Young or Lewis Young, you have another one? You're on mute. Sorry.
Okay, the case you just made could be made for hospitals, particularly mental hospitals. It could be made for schools, in particular special ed programs. You could make that case for numerous institutions. So this could open up a Pandora's box.
Delegate.
Senator Folden.
So the reason behind this is transparency. We all want to strive for transparency. We want to make sure that we have people in key positions that have access to some of the people that are committing crimes in our communities and ensure that their integrity is intact, that they're not going to be smuggling contraband in. The comparison that we're using with mental hospitals, with other places, that is absolutely no comparison unless that person is a criminal subject in that mental hospital. There's no comparison.
Sometimes.
But if you want to put that bill in, I would support that bill because they've got access to medications, to drugs, to other things that may or may not be able to be properly accounted for. This is specifically about those that come into contact with the prison population so that we eliminate as best we possibly can without overreaching their commitment and candor to keep our community safe so that there's no contraband being smuggled in, that there's no illicit issues happening. And these have happened in this state. And I think that this measure and the county executive and asking for this to be moved forward with the sheriff should be applauded for trying to maintain a very reputable and detention center that will be the tip of the spear in how we vet the process for employees.
Thank you, Senator. Looks like Delegate Fair.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for their passion in this discussion. I want to share that I agree that we should be doing everything we can to weed out individuals that are promoting illicit activity inside of our prison systems. What I want to see is actually scientifically backed, proved methods, and that includes proper background checks, proper interviews with previous employers, all of the current methods that they currently have at their disposal that they can use to do a proper background check into an individual prior to employment, instead of relying on what has been shown repeatedly as historically inaccurate data collection through lie detector tests and polygraph examinations. I want us to have the safest possible prisons possible. For us to focus just on polygraphs or to focus on polygraphs and put those into the mix really does our citizens a huge disservice. And so I really hope that we can look at this holistically and say, how can we best do this? I would like clarification from the county executive's office. My understanding was they put this forward as a courtesy to the sheriff's office. I would love to hear from the county executive's office if they indeed endorsed this program or simply moved it forward as part of their priorities as a courtesy to the sheriff. Thank you.
Delegate Miller, did you have your hand up, or was that, was
Yes, so I wanted to just chime in for a second that just because you add another tool to your disposal doesn't preclude use of all the other great mechanisms that Delegate Fair did list as well.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Simpson?
Yes, I concur. It is another tool in the toolbox, just unfortunately, as Delegate Fair expressed, it has been proven a broken tool repeatedly, more of a reflection of the individual giving the polygraph than actually those who are taking it. And there are other tools that are much more effective in testing individuals to see if they would be more inclined to being to being influenced, and there is training in which you can, help individuals be less so or make better decisions about whether or not this is the job for them. So I do have a lot of hesitation about polygraphs. My background in child welfare, I know that they have not been, they're not reliable. So I understand the need, I understand why, but I don't think this is the tool.
Thank you, Delegate Simpson. Delegate Kerr, are you second bite at the apple?
Yes, a second bite, please, Mr. Chairman. It would help me if I understood one central point. Is this a condition of employment, or is this an ongoing investigative tool? And do police officers undergo the same type of scrutiny?
Chairman, I can answer that.
Senator Folden.
Police officers and correctional officers undergo the same scrutiny. They have to be polygraphed. It's a condition of employment to take this test. And while I appreciate Delegate Simpson's offering of other methods, saying that there are other tools, I didn't hear any specifics offered. This is a tool that's been vetted. It is a part of a multiple piece toolkit to ensure that we're doing our part and our due diligence to put the best people in those positions that come into contact with some of the worst of our communities. That's really it. So yes, it is the same process. It's just one of those pieces, Delegate Kerr.
Well, thank you, Senator Folden. I'm still unclear as to whether this is something that happens pre-employment, or is this an ongoing investigative tool? Because if it happens pre-employment, it assumes that the criminal behavior is already present in the applicant, rather than something that would happen throughout this person's career.
Yeah, so it is pre-employment, and it is not an ongoing tool unless there are reasons that necessitate such a thing as a condition of employment or suspicions. Additionally, the use of the tool it's not the sole indicator of employment. But yes, it is pre-employment. And that's really, it's pretty simple. I've been polygraphed several times through my career of being employed at different agencies, and it measures your physiological responses to things. It's not talking about your future predictors of criminal behavior. It's talking about your past behaviors and what you've been involved of illegal activities prior to that point. It's not a test to see well, if given this opportunity, how would you respond? It's not hypotheticals. It deals with your body's physiological responses off of set questions that have been deemed to be asked that are relevant to the job you're applying for.
It just seems odd to me that here we are in the delegation debating a bill when we don't have the advocates advocating for it. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Delegate Kerr. Delegate Valentine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to reiterate a couple of points from Senator Folden as someone who has taken these polygraphs on numerous occasions regarding employment. And when we look at the polygraph itself, we have to remember that there is quite a bit of process prior to that with a pre-employment and pre-interview packet. There's post-interview questions. It does not exist in a vacuum. And a lot of polygraphers will tell you they're looking for information in the physiological responses and the information that's gathered after a polygraph. So I just want everyone to remember that. And as far as the pre-employment, you know that going in on the front end, it's an expectation. Everyone's aware of that. I never had a problem with the polygraph. And as well as ongoing, if it's a tool that's used, if an allegation is made, it's just one aspect or one element. And that's all I'd like to add to this.
Thank you, Delegate. Looks like Delegate Fair.
Yeah, so I did have a follow-up question with regarding Delegate Valentine's comments there, which is, I want to know if a person fails their polygraph, which again has a historical inaccuracy rate. If a person fails their polygraph exam, will they still be considered for the position? Because we say it's one step in the process, but it's inside of a vacuum of a much larger process. But if the individual fails the polygraph, are they considered still for the position?
I can answer that, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have?
In my experience in the agencies I've worked for, individuals have been allowed to polygraph up to 2 or 3 different times to see if that is something that can be worked through. That's my personal experience in the agencies I've worked for, where they are afforded another opportunity. Now, there is a limit if nothing else is uncovered, but it is normally more than one time. It's been my experience.
And much like the resident that lives in district in Mount Airy that I alluded to last week, who came back inconclusive repeatedly during their polygraph examination, would that person be considered for a job after multiple attempts, even though it came back inconclusive?
That would be a question for the hiring authority, because each hiring authority is different.
Do we have the bill sponsor here that can answer that question, Mr. Chair?
Well, Delegate Kerr is the bill sponsor. Now, so look, I mean, I think it's inferred that this is a tool given to the agency conducting the hiring. And we're the lawmakers. If we allow them to have the tool, then obviously they have the discretion to hire or not hire based on the use of that tool. I think that's pretty self-evident. And look, this has been a great discussion, a lot of different perspectives on all sides. I mean, I appreciate that we have some law enforcement individuals in our delegation that have taken these tests before, that have worked, within those agencies before. And I appreciate the other side, concerns of fairness. But what we also heard was one tool of many to hire someone. It's not the conclusive tool. And we just heard from Valentine that, they may do it multiple times just to ensure that it was fair and not some, maybe the results were faulty or something like that. So it looks like Delegate Tomlinson. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Pippy. Can somebody confirm this is not for all civilian support staff, right? This is just for civilian support staff who come in contact with the actual folks who are in prison, correct?
Right. The text language says direct personal contact. So
okay.
Only apply to individuals that come in direct personal contact with an inmate.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Folden. Delegate Senator Folden.
I'd like to go ahead and, I mean, I don't know how much more we need to vet through this. I'd like to call for the vote and do it as a roll call.
Second.
All right. So there's been a motion. There's been a second. Any brief discussion on that motion and second?
Mr. Chairman, there are members of the county council on the call. Perhaps one of them would like to offer an opinion on this.
So generally for public comments, which we actually put ahead of member comments, that's further down on the agenda. Look, at this point, this issue was brought to our delegation in early December. It's been on the docket for nearly 2 months. Every member has had an opportunity to reach out to the parties at stake. The bill was sent to the delegation prior to this meeting. We've got to move forward one way or the other. So
Guys, fuck around.
if you're under iPhone, if you could please mute yourself. I apologize. I don't have a name. Just put yourself on mute. Thank you. All right. So we have a motion. We have a second. So now that was to move. Was that a motion to approve the bill, or was that a motion to stop the debate and move forward? I can't recall.
It was
The
a
motion was to call for a vote.
Okay.
And to
So
have it as a
Senator,
roll call vote.
got it. So Senator, why don't you make a motion to approve this bill as delegation bill and the delegation name?
I make a motion to move forward with the bill as it's crafted with delegation support for the sheriff and county executive with a roll call vote.
Thank you,
Second.
Senator. There's a motion. There's a second. Again, any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of voting for the bill signify by saying aye, and we will do a count. Oh, you said roll call. So we'll start with the top of the screen. Delegate Fair.
No.
Delegate Tomlinson.
Yes.
Okay. Delegate Valentine.
Yes.
Delegate Kerr.
No.
Delegate Simpson.
No.
Senator Lewis Young.
No.
Delegate Boucher.
Abstain.
Okay. Delegate Miller.
Yes.
Okay. Senator Quarterman.
Yes.
Senator Folden.
Yes.
Delegate Siliberti.
Yes.
Delegate Rose.
Yes.
Senator Reedy.
Yes.
All right. Am I the only one left? I might be. All right. And the Delegate Pippi, the chair votes yes. So let me get a tally here. 1 second. Okay. So the motion moves favorably, 9 in the affirmative, 4 in opposition. So I appreciate the robust debate and everyone's input on that.
Mr. Chair, just quick point of order.
Yes, sir.
Historically, the delegation has always, in their letter of support, issued the final vote total, as well as the members voting for and against in the letter of support. I request that we do the same with these bills moving forward.
And I would like to request a further breakdown of those votes. What legislators represented Frederick County and what legislators that were part of the vote actually represent other counties. I think it's important to see that in the vote.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Folden.
that is completely irrelevant. Every member of this legislature that represents Frederick County in one part or another has a vote in this legislative process. That is, I believe this is trying to get things in the weeds. We move forward, we send the letter of support as has been done historically.
It's
So,
called the
forward.
Frederick County delegation, but not
Correct. And the delegation has
necessarily
voted.
Frederick County representatives. We have other representatives from other counties determining Frederick County policy, and that should be transparent.
Okay. I'm going to interject here for 1 second. Hopefully this will help both senators. So, and I actually forwarded this letter to Delegate Fair because he brought up a point earlier. So typically the committees, the 4 Senate committees and the 6 House committees will send us a memo instructing us how they would like the letter of support from the delegation. And I think it's fair to say that we will abide by those recommendations. So what I'd like to do is just table this discussion. We will check with the chairs of those respective committees and we will comply with their requests. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we're going to move on. The next order of business is the sheriff's salary increase. And I'd like to give either Delegate Valentine or Delegate Miller an opportunity to let us know what the update for that legislation is, any. I think it's in Delegate Valentine's name. So Delegate Valentine, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did offer this legislation or sent it to bill drafting and it came back. It was, and we did get some feedback from the AG's office. It should not take effect until after the next term or this term is up. And I'm looking to have that change so that it would take effect in 2027.
Okay, so do you want to move that to the next week's agenda when it's?
Yes, if we could, when it comes
Perfect.
back, I would like to just table that.
Perfect. Okay, so that's what we'll do. We'll move that to next week because they got some supplemental feedback and they want to get that right. Okay. So that is the legislative items that were hard items on the agenda. I just want to briefly talk about the legislative bond initiative real quick, and then we can open it up to public and member comments on anything you guys want to talk about. So just to give an update, the legislative bond initiatives are due by February 6th, if you're in the Senate, and February 10th, if you're in the House. So just for housekeeping purposes in your respective districts, if you have some projects you're working on with municipal leaders or county officials, et cetera, you want to make sure you get that information back and then submitted to drafting by the 6th if you're in the Senate or the 10th if you're in the House. Just for some housekeeping for you guys. Okay, that's all I had for that. We're going to move on to public and member comments. We'll start with the public first because they are most important. So if there are any members of the public, and that can be county officials or anyone who's not a member of the delegation, if you have a comment or a question, please raise your hand and we'll give you an opportunity to share with us your thoughts. Looks like Mayor Hushhour from Mount Airy. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Appreciate you all letting me sit in on the meeting. I just want to say that yesterday the Carroll delegation, who seems to all be on here, and I would emphasize as well that Carroll delegation. I live in Frederick County. About 1/3 of Mount Airy is sitting in Frederick County, so we are represented. Part of Frederick County is indeed represented, just like before the redistricting. We were all on the Frederick County side, but it represented about 2/3 of our Carroll County side as well. But our Urban Renewal Authority made it through the Carroll delegation yesterday, and I just hope that Senate Bill 313 is supported by the Frederick delegation moving forward. And thank you for your time. Thank you.
So real quick, are you looking to request that the Frederick County delegation supports SB 313 like formally, or just you want to put it on our radar?
I just want to put it on your radar unless Senator Reedy has has something that he wants to add to that, or any of the Carroll delegation.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Senator Reedy.
Yes. So I think we wanted to try to get this on the agenda for next week's meeting because I believe we need a formal support from both delegations about this issue. And obviously not asking for everybody to vote today because most of the members have not seen, I'm assuming have not seen the bill. So we want to be sure that we wanted to run it through Carroll first and then bring it over to you all. So we'll be, I think Delegate Rose, our House Chair, will be interfacing with you in the coming the coming hours, the coming short amount of time to get that, make sure everybody gets a copy. We would love to have that on the agenda probably for next week. It's a local, literally very local Mount Airy issue, but wanted to, Mayor Hushhour wanted to come and express support here early and put it on everybody's radar screen.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Mayor. We'll coordinate with Delegate Rose and we'll get that on the agenda for next Friday.
Okay, thank you. I'm new to the process, so learning as
All
I
good.
go. Thank you.
All good. Yes, sir. Looks like Helen Profiter, Hood College.
Good morning, all, and thank you for letting me speak for just a few minutes. I know you're so busy. I just wanted to remind you all of Frederick Day in Annapolis. That will be February 7th at the Governor Calvert House from 4:30 to 6:30. This is a tradition. It has not only the City of Frederick representatives, Frederick County representatives, but also businesses in Frederick County like Leidos, Hood College, Frederick Health, the Chamber of Commerce. We hope to see all your faces there and have great conversations with you about what your priorities are and what our priorities are and how we can best work together. Thanks.
Wonderful. We look forward to it, and we'll bring our bells. We'll have our bells on. So,
Mr. Chair, may I just ask one thing of Helen? I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
mean to
sure.
interrupt. Helen, could you get us a list of the organizations that are representative there so we can start to promote that to our constituents through our social media feeds?
Absolutely. Happy to.
I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Great idea. Great idea. Looks like Mayor Brown, City of Brunswick.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to take a minute and just ask all of you to please think about, as session gears up, municipalities, and something you've heard before is finding additional funding streams for municipalities. We often get impacted by state mandates that don't come with any funding to implement them. Most recently, a lot of the police reform legislation. Brunswick has its own police department. We are a small department, but the police services do take up pretty much the largest portion of our general fund budget. We're proud of our police department. We're going to continue with our police department, but a lot of the legislation, which some of it I absolutely agree with that's in there, but it makes it difficult for us to fund a lot of those things. And so just any way we can continue to find funding streams for municipalities, throughout the pandemic, the various COVID relief funding, the ARPA funding that's coming down from the federal government. I think municipalities, a lot of that funding has come straight to municipalities for the first time in history, really. And I think we've proven that we can be very effective as the government closest to the people with those funds. Much of those funds have been transformative for communities like Brunswick. I've been able to do a lot of projects that really impact our community, and people in our community are seeing those differences. So any ways we can get creative to continue to find ways to bring new funding streams and revenue to municipalities would be a huge help for us and the projects we're working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And we feel you, we understand, and I know the delegation members are working hard on behalf of the municipalities they represent. So please keep fighting the good fight. Any other comments from any public or any municipal leaders or local leaders? All right, not seeing any member comments for the good of the order. Looks like Delegate Boucher.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Clarification of procedure. In the very beginning, you stated, if I'm not mistaken, that the Legislative Services wants all the members of this delegation to have their video on during participation. Is that correct?
That we received a memo from them, and I relay what's relayed to us.
And the reason I ask that is twice Senator Folden has participated in this meeting without his video. Nothing against Senator Folden, but I think it behooves the public to see all their delegation members on video participating at all times. I don't appreciate any of the delegation members blacking themselves out during this hearing. I think it's best for the public, for all of us, to keep our video on, especially when participating in debate. Thank you, Chairman.
So just on that, one thing though is, look, we live in a time where folks are in different places at different times. So there should be a little bit of flexibility to help members out, like if you're, in the restroom or something, you shouldn't be, but you can be off the video. It's okay. But I appreciate the comments, Delegate Boucher, and I know the members are trying to.
Chairman Pippy.
Yes, sir. Senator.
So I just want you to be aware, and I'll show everybody my ugly, handsome, not really handsome face. I'm driving just like I was last week. I would be in violation of law if I did that. So would you rather, Delegate Boucher, me not be here? Because I did speak with ethics yesterday, Dia Daly, and she said that is not an ethics ruling and that is not appropriate. There may have been some type of directive handed down from the House about House measures, and there may have been things about the Senate during Senate things during COVID. But there is no mandate that requires my face to be on here, especially while I'm driving, and thereby would be in violation of law.
That's fair. And listen, as far as I'm concerned, we would rather you be safe on the road than, be looking at all of us. So we can talk offline about it. No sweat. Appreciate the comments, Delegate Boucher, Senator Folden, appreciate the comments. Delegate Kerr. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One quick thing. I see that Alderman Russell is on the call. If she could contact me, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Killing two birds with one stone. Good job, Delegate. Karen Lewis Young.
Yeah, let's not kill wildlife during this forum, but that wasn't my point. I wanted to give everybody an update on the BYOB because Delegate Fair, I believe, sent a draft copy out to the delegation yesterday. We have had a very inclusive process in developing that legislation. We've had numerous meetings with the Liquor Board, and also we vetted the legislation with the Frederick City Police Department because that is the area where we appear to have the most problems and concerns. Chief Lando has been extremely responsive, and he has had a meeting with the mayor and other department members that would like to weigh in on this issue. So we want to bring you a piece of legislation that has been thoroughly vetted, the kinks worked out. We hope to have that by the next meeting. If we have it in advance, we'll certainly send it to you. But I just wanted you all to be aware of the process and the extent we've gone to make sure that all of the relevant departments have input on this legislation, which is very complex. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And just kind of piggybacking on that, I want to remind everyone that the bill drop deadline is February 10th for the delegation. What happens if we try to drop something after that, it goes into rules, it gets very difficult to pass. So what I'd like is if you have any legislation such as what we just heard, the BYOA, please get that to us so we can put it on the agenda so that members can see it so that we can address it at the next meeting. And what we're doing is if you actually have the legislation back, that's the best way. So that way everyone can have time to review it versus just, talking about hypotheticals. So as soon as you get your bills, please forward them to us and then we can get them on the agenda. We've got 2 meetings left. So just as a point of clarification. And if I don't see any other comments from anybody before we adjourn.
Chairman Pippy, I'm sorry, this is Nan from Senator Van Hollen's office. I just want to remind you that I believe the senator is got it on his calendar to be a part of this meeting next week.
We look forward to having Senator Van Hollen on the meeting. And I think Andrew just gave me the thumbs up that is the case. So we'll see him next week. And good to hear from you, Nan, as well. All right. Well, so
Chair Pippy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify something that was, weighing on me that Senator Lewis Young said is, every single person on this call, part of our delegation, represents someone in Frederick County. Regardless, they are touching a voter in Frederick County's lives. They are representing their constituents, and we are all doing our best to do that. We didn't draw the maps. I didn't vote on the maps, but every single constituent deserves to have their representation and deserves to have their voices heard. And that's what the people that represent them do. And so it concerns me a little bit that, especially when you're talking about Delegate Valentine, who does live in Frederick County, who represents a significant portion of Frederick County to our north, that those residents do deserve to have that say in delegation matters. So I don't want anyone in Frederick County to think that they are not welcome on this call or that their voices aren't being heard. And that's all I wanted to say about that.
I didn't say that.
Thank you, Delegate Miller, and appreciate the comments. All right, that looks like that is it. It's 9:42. It's Friday, thank goodness. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Senator Reedy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Delegate Valentine. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor to adjourn the meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, have a